Cryptid is a simple but deep deduction game published by Osprey Games, designed by Hal Duncan and Ruth Beavers, and illustrated by Kwanchai Moria. Three to five cryptozoologists will compete to be the first to find a mysterious and possibly mythical creature. A cryptid, if you will. Each player is given a different clue as to its whereabouts, and between all of the clues given, there is only one possible solution. The cryptid lives somewhere on this board. Will you find it before your other colleagues, or will you be left in the dust? Fame and fortune awaits. So let's get started. Start by choosing whether you'd like to play a normal or advanced game. It's recommended to start with a normal game, so for this explanation, we'll be setting that up. We will explain the changes for the advanced game near the end. Shuffle the deck and choose one card at random. Each one of these cards is a different puzzle to solve. Choose a first player using whatever method you'd like and give them the player pawn. Using the illustration on the chosen card, set up the map. Place the map tiles on the table like the illustration. You can identify each tile by their corresponding number and even orient them by using the small white or black dot in the corner of each tile printed on the card. This will always be placed where the number is printed on the tile. These pieces are called structures. The pillars are standing stones, and the triangles are called abandoned shacks. Set aside the black structures, as we'll only need them for the advanced game. Place all of the remaining structures on the map according to the illustration. Now, flip over the map card and check the row with the number of players in your game. Hand out the player pieces, the cubes and the discs, and the corresponding clue book to the players based on the current player count. Now, read out each clue number to the player with that color book. For example, in this game, since we're setting up a 5-player game, the green player would read clue number 6, the red player would read clue number 66, and so on. All clues are read in silence and kept secret for the entire game. All the numbers in each book are randomized, so it won't be possible to look for someone else's clue in your book. The clues you get will refer to terrain type, animal territories, and structures on the board. The 5 different terrains are desert, swamp, mountain, forest, and water. These dotted spaces represent animal territories. Black is bear territory, and red is cougar territory. There are many different clues that you could get, and each of them are detailed in the back of your clue books, but they can be categorized into 4 groups, and there are a few things that you should know about each, so let's go over those now. First is one of 2 types of terrain. This can be any 2 combinations of terrain types. For example, swamp and water, forest and mountain, etc. You know that the habitat is on one of these 2 types of terrain. The second one is within one space of a terrain type or animal territory. This actually includes the territory or the terrain itself. For example, within one space of forest would include this space or this one. This could be any terrain type or just both types of animal territory. The third type is within 2 spaces of a type of animal territory or type of structure. This will always be a specific type of structure or animal territory. For example, within 2 spaces of cougar territory or within 2 spaces of a standing stone. In the case of the latter, this could be any standing stone of any color, and again, this does include the space with the structure or the animal spaces themselves. And the final type is within 3 spaces of a specific color of structure. This means any type of structure as long as it's that color. For example, within 3 spaces of a green structure. Now that you know all of the clues, playing the game couldn't be simpler. The game will begin with an initial sharing phase. The starting player will place a cube on any space which could not be the habitat according to their clue. The next player clockwise will do the same, and this will continue until each player has placed 2 cubes. This will give the players a starting point to work with. The first player will then take the first turn. But before we get to that, there are a couple of ground rules we should cover. First of all, Cryptid allows for some misdirection when placing your pieces on the board. But the game does depend heavily on players placing their pieces honestly. Players may never place a piece on the board that contradicts their rule. Now, mistakes happen, so if you notice that you've made a mistake and placed a piece incorrectly, no harm, no foul. This game is much more forgiving than other deduction games when it comes to mistakes. Just point it out right away and correct the mistake on the board. Secondly, once you've placed a piece of your color on a space, you can never place another piece on that space. Each space can only contain 1 piece of each player's color. Third, once a cube is placed on a space, that space has been ruled out and can no longer be interacted with. This means you will not be able to place any more pieces or take any actions on that space. Fourth, if through your action you ever cause another player to place a cube on the board, you must place a cube on the board as well. We'll cover this in more detail in just a moment. And finally, once pieces are placed on the board, they are never removed, with the only exception being to correct a mistake made earlier. Now that that's out of the way, we can learn how a turn works. Each turn you can do one of 2 things. You can interrogate a player or search a space. To interrogate a player, place the player pawn on any space on the board that does not already contain a cube. Ask any other player whether that space is legal according to their clue. They respond either by placing a disc on that space for yes, or a cube on that space for no. If they place a cube, you must then place a cube of your own on a legal space. That is to say, any space that does not already contain a cube of any color, and could not be the habitat according to your clue. For example, if your clue was on forest or mountain, you could place a cube here or there, but not here or there. After you've taken your action, the player pawn is passed to the left and play continues. To search a space, place the player pawn and one of your discs on a space that corresponds to your clue. Then, in player order, each player must then either place a disc or a cube according to their clue. If any player places a cube, then the turn is over, and no other player needs to continue placing pieces. You must then place a cube of your own and pass the player pawn to the left. If you would like to investigate a space that already contains one of your discs, place the player pawn on that space and place another one of your discs somewhere else on the board that corresponds to your rule. If you investigate a space and every player places a disc on that space, you have found the cryptid and won the game. You now know all about the base game. If this is your first game, you're ready to play. However, if you've played a few times and you're looking for a bit more of a challenge, keep watching and we'll go over the rules for the advanced game. To set up an advanced game, just choose one of the black-bordered Advanced Game cards during setup. The Advanced Game only has 2 key changes. There are now black structures in addition to the others, and they're added to the board normally. And you can now receive inverse clues. This means that some players may receive a clue that says not within one space of a forest or not on water or desert. The normal clues are still in play, so you will likely get a combination of the two in each game. This does make the game more difficult, so make sure you've played the basic game a few times before you attempt the advanced version. And that's how you play Cryptid. Please comment on this video if you have any questions or feedback, and we will be sure to reply as soon as we're able. Cryptid is one of many brilliant deduction games we have here. So come on in and try this and over 500 other awesome games like it at Great Oaks Tavern.